Hello and welcome. I'm Maria from Sew Through Time, and this time we're doing a 1920s faux bob on long hair. Now, while there are styles that can be done with straight hair, this style does require you to curl the section of the hair that is visible in the bob, so the length up until about ear length or chin length. And there are basically three ways to do this curl. You can do an Edwardian wave. I have a tutorial on that in my 19 teens hairstyle, so you can go over to watch that video if you would want to do that one. Or the second option is you use a barrel hair curler or hair waver, one of these 3-barrel ones. This is pretty straightforward. I mean, you just put it in your hair and wait and hold, and then you take it out. But if you have longer hair, you do want to hold it while it cools down, because if you let it just hang, the weight of your hair will actually flatten it out and it won't hold the curl very well. And then the third method involves doing finger waves or a finger wave pattern by hand, and that's the one we're doing today. And for that, we will need a hair gel. I'm using Unique Hair Care Gel, but you could also do your own hair gel out of flax seeds or some other, whatever hair gel you want to use. And then, of course, you want a comb. And then, of course, you'll need a hairbrush. And then for the rest of the hairstyle, you'll need some hair elastics, or you could use ribbons like they often did in the era, but elastics work fine. And then you'll want to use hairpins. You can use either the U-pins or bobby pins or a mixture of both. As for length, this is basically anything that is too long to be a bob, and it works just fine. If you have shorter hair, the braid section will be smaller, of course, and less elaborate, and the longer your hair, the more elaborate it is. My hair is now about to my mid-thigh, and this style still works on mine. So unlike a lot of those long hairstyles that don't actually work on like ridiculously long hair, this one does. So to start, we'll just brush out the hair and make sure it's tangle free. Okay, once we're tangle free, then we can start waving it. Now, the thing is that in the 1920s, you have a little bit of the sleeker waves, but you also have like really frizzy, really fuzzy, wild, poofy hair that is like, it has a wave to it, but it's more just frizz than actual defined wave or curl. And both are very fashionable. Now, I have bangs, but if you don't have bangs, you don't really need them for this style. As for your part, they do have a center part in the 1920s, or you can do a side part. It can be a little bit to the side, or it can be very drastically to the side. So all basically are fine. But if you do a side part, you definitely want to do faux bangs or have actual bangs. I kind of, because my bangs aren't like a weird length for this, I kind of do a like mix of both. And for this style today, I will do like a slight side part. Okay, grabbed myself a cup of coffee, and now we'll continue. I grabbed a couple of bobby pins here onto the table to help with the waving. If you're doing the other style of waves, the Edwardian wave, you want to do basically on most of the front of the hair or the top part of the hair. And then if you're doing the barrel waver, or you're doing this finger wave, you can actually get away with just doing like around your face. I like to section off first this like section around my face, and then I just hold it like behind my ear. Oh, that's not big enough. There we go. Because that like holds enough for me, especially because I can just sit on the rest of the hair. But if your hair isn't long enough for that, then you might want to hold it back with something. And then I start by putting gel just on the part that I'm doing. But you want to comb it first like upwards a little bit and backwards, because that's what the first section is going to do. And then you just want to put a bobby pin in place when you feel like it's in the shape you want. And then the next one, make sure you hold the bobby pin, and then with the comb you push your hair forwards towards your face. And then again, you flip the underside underneath the comb back, so that this makes a wave pattern. It works better if you don't have the bangs in there. My bangs are not being cooperative today, so I'm just gonna take that part of the bangs out and redo it. And you don't have to worry if there's like weird looking holes, because we can fix those in a bit. And now this bang part, and this I just want to bring at the front of my face. And this is also an option, like if you don't have any bangs, you can definitely like bring the front as if you can shape them into bangs, like faux bangs there, and you can like flip them all the way down to your brow if you want. And then when we get the front section like waved in the pattern we want, then we get here by the ear. And this is really where like the 1920s hair usually flicks to the front. It really like poofs out here. So I'm adding a little bit more hair gel, and now I'm grabbing like more hair from the side, and I'm just gonna grab it. That's maybe 3 inches below. And then I flip it up like this so that it really forms a loop of hair. And now, again, I'm pinning this. And I'm pinning this like right above my ear. And it's a bit heavy to stay on its own. So I'm going to pin another pin this way to hold it in place. And again, you don't have to worry about pins showing, because that will all be fixed in the end, or before the end. Okay, and now we're ready to work on this side. And this side, because this side goes kind of first up and then down, this side will go straight towards your face. And while I do this, I wanted to explain a little bit about the history of this bob hairstyle for women. It actually starts to be fashionable, especially among the artistic elite in Paris and Berlin, but other places in Europe as well, and even the bigger cities in the US, just before World War One or the Great War starts. So already in 19 teens. But this is very much the artistic, fashionable elite, and it is not mainstream yet. Though a lot of, especially during the World War II, a lot of fashionable hairstyles start to be mimicking short hair. So they'll have the appearance in the front. They'll have this sort of wave pattern in the front, but the actual way the rest of the hair is arranged is still arranged in buns, and often quite high buns, so that it doesn't really give the illusion of a bob. But then by the time we get into the 1920s, the bob silhouette is mainstream, and like it's the average go-to for all women. Not everybody cut their hair though. It was actually like throughout the 1920s, it was a common like subject in women's fashion magazines to bob or to not bob your hair. So a lot of women kept their hair long. They just made that silhouette of a bob, and that's what we're doing now today too. Just like they would have done it back in the day. Okay, so now we have this kind of floofy, it has a bit of flyaways, and that's fine. That's like a part of the fashion bob kind of thing in the front. But as you can see, the long hair is still in the back. So now we have to deal with that. And the easiest way I have found to deal with it, especially like with my length, you could, like if you have shorter hair, you could just tuck in the ends, or you could do like a single braid and then just tuck that in. But because my hair is quite long, or really long, and it's quite thick, I prefer doing it in double braids because I find that that's just easier to manage and make it look flat in the back. But again, keeping with the theme, we don't want these braids like super tight, or like so that they aren't so that they would be super sleek. You want to keep them a bit messy, and especially like keeping them so that the like braid itself is a little loose makes it a lot easier, because the thinner in one direction you can get it, the easier it will be to lay flat against your scalp. Now, you can tie this off with an elastic. The smaller you use, the easier it is to hide. But another trick is if you don't have super slippery hair that you can do, and this also, by the way, not combing it out properly after doing this fake bob helps with your hair have more grip to it. You could also use a salt spray if you feel like it, if you don't have a lot of grip naturally to your hair. But now I'm having trouble finding bobby pins because my pins are a big mess. Yeah, so another way of doing this, if you have good grip in your hair, is grabbing a bobby pin and pulling it to the end. The braid will unravel a little bit, but not much. And then we'll apparently I can't speak. Braid the other side, and like you can see, my braids are like not in any way equally divided. They're like just approximately thrown together, and I'm not being very careful with how I grab them. There is no clear like finely divided sections anywhere, and it doesn't need to be, and it's actually, I find it a lot easier to do without really clearly divided sections, because like I said, this is a messy hairdo. You want that like messy frizzy bob. That's the look we're going for. Apparently I got my sections all weird. So I'm just going to grab from the other one and just continue braiding because we really don't care as long as it gets braided. Oh, and apparently I have gotten lint in my hair. This is one of those long hair problems. You end up sitting somewhere and you get a bunch of lint or dust in your hair, which is always fun. This time it's blue. I don't even know where I got that from. There we go. Now that both sections are braided, the thing we do is, I'll turn around. Okay, and now what we do is we grab one of these braids and you can just like loop it first up. You weave the braids to the back of your head as flat as you can. Try to mimic the shape of your skull as you go. If you have shorter hair, the braids will just go from one ear to the other ear, but if you have longer hair like me, it will loop many times around your skull. And if you need to make turns, make sure that the braid lies flat at the turn. Otherwise, it will make a weird bump, especially under a cloche hat. And now by the time we get to the end, I like to wrap the second end kind of around the pin and then just stab the pin as far in to the hair as it will go. And then I like to take a U-pin and then secure the rest of the end with it. So the way you secure a U-pin is first you poke it in one direction. I usually do up and pull it up. Push it into the hair quite a bit, not all the way. You want it a little bit showing, and then you either clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter which way, but you twirl it to the opposite direction, and you want to go at least 180 degrees. I tend to go closer to like 200. Okay, now I checked the back and it looks great. So what I'll now do is, now I'll put hairspray. You can put regular modern hairspray. I like to do my homemade spray. I have basically just sugar water in it. So I use confectioner's sugar, but you could just use regular sugar and heat up the water. A teaspoon of confectioner's sugar, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, and that makes for a fairly stiff hairspray. Not anything ridiculous, but still like definitely a lot of hold in it. So now spray the hair, and because this sort of hairspray is a wet hairspray, you do need to let it dry a little bit. Okay, now it's dried, so we can take out the pins that were just kind of place markers. There. And you don't need to hide them completely. As long as most of the pins aren't like super ridiculously visible, that's good enough. I hope you enjoyed this faux 1920s bob, and if you did, please hit that like button because it really does help out in this world. And if you haven't already subscribed, do that if you feel like it, and then I'll see you again next time. Bye!